When I was 20. Say that again.
Hunter. I'm gay.
You are?
Yeah, be specific, not just small town. You need to name this town. You gotta name it. And then in the details underneath there, like that's you're gonna make it come alive for me. So describe it, the sensory one. Dante. I don't know.
Man.
Oh, yes. Be quick, 2 minutes. What's the first lady? Taking along as long as it's scary. And incorporate for third grade.
So can I make the devil come here? You can't.
Yes.
That will be.
Miss are, guys, if you really read Miss, they're a little demented and crazy.
It is true.
So yes, it can be the coming out there.
No, it is true.
So let's get to our student journal,
Way
please.
too much talking right now. So wait to go. If you have a question, I would be more than happy to help you.
Breathe.
I can't breathe.
I had a really crazy weekend.
What happened?
I cleaned my room.
Still hearing a lot of talking and not seeing a lot of writing. You're fine.
Sorry.
Time to focus on getting the writing done and not just the
Okay,
talking.
go to your student journal, please.
And not slapping yourself in the face with your mask.
Go to your student journal, please.
I'm dying. Yeah. I hate it.
Hey, guys, please
I'm not doing
stop.
anything.
You're gonna break it. Please stop. It's not your property.
with Southern politicians is they do that. Okay, you treat them very mercifully, right? You allow them to retain their offices, their high offices, and at the same time, they're disagreeing with you every step of the way. So you're probably gonna be a little peeved at them. Good. Oh, Chapter 4. Question 1. How did the radical Republicans pass the Civil Rights Act? 1, 2, 3.
Jesus, could you be any more loud?
What happened?
No, Austin does though.
I could if I wanted to. Don't be loud.
Okay, but
Good, they overrode the president's veto. So the law started in Congress, it
You want to
passed.
get knocked upside the head, don't you?
Johnson did what to it?
head down.
He vetoed it.
Nice.
And then Congress did what to Johnson's veto?
Overrided it.
They overrided or overrode. Does anyone remember with a raised hand? What majority you need to override a veto? Like,
Isn't it like 2/3?
it is not like 2/3, it is 2/3. So in the Senate, how many? Today.
Oops. I didn't
Oh,
mean
we're
to
doing
do that.
Today.
See,
Uh,
I just like almost
Okay.
broke my computer.
it's 2 per state, so is it? So it's 100, right?
100 total.
100 total senators, and the House of Representatives are like 438, 45.
Yeah. So 2/3 of the Senate is what?
A number.
It is a number, don't they? 67 is correct. Good. What?
Why did that dude get thrown in jail?
Who?
Jefferson.
Oh, Jefferson Davis, because he was the leader. I don't know. He was the president of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So they overrode his veto. Back then, I'll give somebody a piece of candy if you can tell me what the number was.
I want
back then to
candy.
override his veto. Hunter?
I don't
Okay,
know any
so
of
I
that
have
stuff,
it down
so I
as,
can't do it.
it was 136 against the 38 Democrats. So
Okay.
2/3 of that
It's not
was
fair.
me,
How do you know that?
because I looked it up.
Because Hunter.
Wait,
Um,
he can Google it.
Hunter.
So I think, it's around like, not 100.
No, God, no.
47?
I'm just looking for the Senate.
Oh,
Oh man.
I'm talking about the House of Representatives.
Never mind. It was 30, I think it was 37.
Hunter, you don't get candy. You don't get the candy.
Wait, 37.
Wait, is it Bob?
I feel bad now.
Okay, last question. Or no, it's not last question. Second to last question. What did Johnson think should be left up to the state? Michael,
People right, basically.
that's a better answer. Individuals' rights, okay? If a state, and it says this in the reading, if a state wanted to be this kind of aristocratic, only certain people get rights, and they all vote for that, Johnson thought, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but, as it turns out, the 14th Amendment was passed, and it said that every state needs to have equal rights, okay? And the last one, what do you think is meant by tyranny of
expect
the
you to actually
majority?
do
Before you
that.
answer that, okay, we're gonna dissect it. What is tyranny?
Oh, I love dissecting.
Blake, what's tyranny?
I'm dying.
Stop!
Okay.
Stop! That is your last warning. I told you my patience was thin, and you keep pushing it. I'm advising you to stop where you are and pay attention. Sorry. Good. Okay. A tyrant is someone who takes away your, not necessarily your power, your rights. Okay. That's what a tyrant is. Tyranny is something that a tyrant does. A tyrant practices tyranny. Okay. What's the majority? Good. Most people. Okay. So tyranny of the majority, if you put that together, what does that mean? Hunter.
Most people taking away minority rights.
Yes, that is exactly correct. Okay. So I want you to pretend, each of you, okay, you are in the minority. Okay. Majority is technically half plus 1. Okay. So we'll say majority is 51%, just to make it easy. The minority, you would be how many percent? 49%. Okay. I want you to pretend you're in the 49%. right? The majority, the 51%, they all vote and they say, hey, let's take the minority's property. Okay? Is that fair?
No.
No, that's not fair. But they voted on it, right? That was a democratic process. It's fair. Right? No, that would be called tyranny of the majority. Okay? The majority of people taking away the minority's rights. Okay? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's a bad thing. All right? That's what tyranny of the majority is. Good. Okay, who did this on paper? Raise your hand.
You have mine, right?
Yep. Anyone else did it electronically?
I didn't know.
I did.
Okay, if you did it electronically, I want you to submit the assignment on Google Classroom right now.
Alright, yeah, I did.
Okay, if you already did that, that's
Fine.
fine.
Is this it?
What?
Are we done with,
Wait, so what are we gonna do now?
You're not done with the reconstruction, you still gotta learn about that.
I don't wanna do this anymore.
Okay, the other thing that we're going to be going over today, I have the electronic copy on Google Classroom. I also have the hard copy in my hand. If you prefer a hard copy, raise your hand.
Of what?
This paper.
Yay, more paper.
yeah.
Fun.
Is it the same paper from last week?
Nope, different one.
No, please.
The rest of you prefer electronic?
I'll have a paper copy.
You have paper copy, okay.
Not all the same copy.
I like paper anyway. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Let's not do that.
Okay.
It's turned into the credit for it, right?
Impeaching a president is the title of this chapter.
I see that.
First things first, who can tell me what it means to impeach? Raise your hand.
We covered this.
Yes, we did. There's a lot of hands. Copper.
To accuse the president for, like, of wrongdoing.
Right. I'll say an official. A government official. Of wrongdoing.
Unofficial, really.
Does it always mean that they're going to be removed from office?
No.
No.
No, it does not. Does anyone remember how many presidents have been impeached in our history? Michael?
3.
3 is correct. You know who?
Andrew Johnson.
Yep.
Trump.
Yep.
Someone else. I don't know the third.
Okay.
Bill Clinton.
That's correct. Bill Clinton. Okay, good. Almost 4, but Richard Nixon resigned before he could be impeached because he was probably going to be removed from office. This, the reading that I just handed out to you, is the closest we've ever been. Yes.
Has anyone ever actually gotten impeached?
Yes. 3 presidents.
No, but like actually got kicked out of office.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Has anyone actually been removed from office?
No.
Yes.
Austin? No. Okay.
Andrew Johnson was.
No.
No.
He was very close to.
Can you remember? Can you follow along with the process? Thanks. All right. Okay, I'm going to read this to you, but I do want you to follow along. I want you to look at that little ticket that's on the left there. Okay, that is the ticket that you would get to the impeachment trial. The House of Representatives and the Senate each have roles in the impeachment process of a president. What is the House's job, Hunter?
It's jury, right?
Nope. Michael?
The House's job isn't it to try to find the guilty?
Nope.
Like, to be like the judge.
Nope, you're all saying the same thing. It's all wrong. What is the House's job in the impeachment process? Yeah,
To accuse the official.
that's correct. Okay, the House's job is to accuse the official of wrongdoing. What's the Senate's job? Michael, Hunter, and Blake,
Jury.
they're the jury.
Joey, I thought I'd like to be like the judge.
No,
Judge
sorry,
is-
Blake, you're still wrong.
Oh, well, you're still wrong. That's
What?
What happens when you get impeached?
So if you get impeached, that just means you're accused of something. If you get removed from office, then you're removed from office. Okay, so 3 presidents have been impeached, Trump, Clinton, and Johnson. And this is probably the closest we've ever been to actually removing a president from office. I'm going to start reading here. The debate, and actually before I start reading, this reading does not go over why he's actually impeached. Okay. I'm gonna write this.
Cool. Now I have to tilt my head to look at it.
Okay, tenure of office act. The president, what's the president's cabinet? What do they do? Hunter.
They help him run certain things that he's not expert at.
Right, and they advise him on how to do certain things. Okay, back then, one of the cabinet positions was called the War Department. Okay, now we call it the Department of Defense. Back then it was called the War Department. The leader of the War Department was the Secretary of War. His name was Edwin Stanton. Right, not Edward, Edwin. Okay. He was nominated and given his position by Abraham Lincoln. Okay, Lincoln was shot, right? Johnson becomes president. Does anyone remember what party Lincoln belonged to? Hunter, or whatever your name is?
Dante?
Republican. Does anyone remember what party Johnson belonged to? Democrat. Okay, Lincoln was Republican, Johnson was a Democrat. All right, so Lincoln, when he gets into office, do you think, well, what do you say? He hires Edwin Stanton. What party do you think Edwin Stanton is? He's a Republican, right? Most of the time, 99.999% of the time, you hire people that are going to view the Constitution the same way as you. Yes.
Why did he hire Johnson?
Good question. So Johnson was from Tennessee, which was a border state. When Lincoln was running for re-election, he wanted to kind of bring those better into the Union. Does that make sense? So that's why you picked him from Tennessee. So Edwin Stanton was a Lincoln hire. Okay. Back then, well, even today, the president gets to hire and fire people basically at will. But when they hire people, they have to go through what? Does anyone know?
Background check?
Nope. Well, yes, but no. Okay, the president can appoint anybody to the cabinet, but who has to confirm? The Senate, okay? That's been true since the country started, okay? But with Edwin Stanton, Johnson wanted to fire him, okay? This, the Tenure of Office Act, was passed by Congress to ensure that Johnson did not fire him, okay? The Congress back then was majority radical Republican. They disagreed with Johnson on just about everything, okay? So they passed this law to make sure that Johnson didn't fire anybody that he wanted, and that's what he wanted to do, okay? The law prohibited any president, from firing somebody that they wanted to fire without going through Congress, okay? So Johnson said, I want to fire this guy. Congress said, no, you have to go through us first. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, that's what the Tenure of Office Act was. That's what he's being impeached for. He eventually violates this. He does fire Stanton. And Congress says, whoa, you need to go through us before you do that. I'm going to impeach you now. Okay? All right. Yes. The debate in the House of Representatives lasted more than 2 months. Then the House voted. It voted to impeach. After that, it was time for the members of the Senate to try Andrew Johnson. What's it mean if you try somebody? I don't mean like patient. Hunter's the only known one that knows?
No, I'm guessing.
What's it mean?
To put them on trial?
That's it. If you
Yeah.
try somebody, you're putting them on trial. Okay? It was time for the members of the Senate to try Andrew Johnson. Remember, 2/3 of the Senate needs to vote for conviction in order to remove a president from office. All the senators but one said in advance how they would vote. And 2/3 of the senators, minus one, said they planned to vote against Johnson. The fate of the president would be decided by one vote. That vote belonged to a newly elected senator, quiet, mild-mannered Edmund G. Ross of Kansas. Ross, a former newspaperman, had been a major in the Union Army. He hated slavery, and he didn't like President Johnson. He had voted with the radical Republicans on every issue. Kansas was a radical Republican state. So Senator Ross knew most of the people he represented couldn't stand President Johnson either. But the young senator said he wasn't going to make up his mind until he heard the evidence, like a normal, sane person should do. The day of the trial came, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court administered an oath to each senator to do impartial justice. Picture the scene. A president is on trial. 1,000 tickets are printed for admission to the Senate gallery. People do everything possible to get them. One Washington woman wakes a congressman at midnight and won't leave his house until he promises her a ticket. Reporters covered the impeachment as if it were a murder trial. All over the country, day after day, newspaper headlines scream the detail. Edmund Ross gets a telegram from Kansas. Anyone know what a telegram is? What's a telegram does? Yeah, it's a message. How did they do them? What? Mail? Sorta. Wasn't just a letter. What is a telegram? How does it send? Right?
By people.
Yeah. What do they do?
I don't know.
Not there.
It's like an old style of telephone, right?
Yeah.
So they just do, they boopity boop boop, and then it
Yeah.
sends to them.
Yeah. Who's ever heard of Morse code?
I have.
Morse code.
Jesus,
yeah.
that hurt my arm.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like dash, dot, 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 dash, right?
Mhm.
Heard of that? Okay. Morse code was used to send telegrams. What a telegram was, you'd have a little pad sort of deal right in your desk, okay? And there would be something that looked like telephone wires that were running across the land, right? And this was before telephones were invented. To send a message quickly, you would have this pad and you would tap on Morse code in it, like this is a dot and this is a dash. Okay? If you tap on it a little for a short time, that's a dot. If you tap on it for a little bit longer, that's a dash. Okay? You would send those messages across, right? And they would go across the telephone wires. And they'd be received a lot quicker than if you mailed a letter, right? And that's how they communicated with each other back in the day before telephones were invented. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
So Edmund Ross gets a telegram from Kansas. Kansas has heard the evidence and demands the conviction of the president. It is signed D.R. Anthony and 1,000 others. Ross answers the telegram to D.R. Anthony and 1,000 others. I have taken an oath to do impartial justice according to the Constitution and laws, and trust that I shall have the courage to vote according to the dictates of my judgment and for the highest good of the country. Later, Ross described the scene on the day of the vote. The galleries were packed. Tickets of admission were at an enormous premium. That means they were very expensive. The House had adjourned, and all of its members were in the Senate chamber. Every chair on the Senate floor was filled with a senator, a cabinet officer, a member of the president's council, his legal team, or a member of the House. The vote begins. Guilty, not guilty. Senator James W. Grimes of Iowa, paralyzed from a stroke, has to be carried into the Capitol on a stretcher. He votes not guilty. Thaddeus Stevens, who was Johnson's probably biggest enemy, now an old man and ailing, is carried in on a chair. He is said to look like cold marble. Thaddeus Stevens, Johnson's biggest enemy, how do you think he voted? Did he vote yes or no to impeach?
Yeah.
He voted
Yeah.
yes. Okay. He votes guilty. There you go, on the next page. Every senator is present. The Chief Justice reminds citizens and strangers in the gallery that absolute silence and perfect order are required. And then, the moment everyone is waiting for, the Chief Justice says, Mr. Senator Ross, how say you? Is the respondent, Andrew Johnson, guilty or not guilty of a high misdemeanor as charged in this article? Ross remembered it this way. Not a foot moved, not the rustle of a garment, not a whisper was heard. Hope and fear seemed blended in every face. The senators in their seats leaned over their desks, many with a hand to their ear. It was a tremendous responsibility. I almost literally looked down into my open grave. Friendships, position, fortune, everything that makes life desirable to an ambitious man were about to be swept away by the breath of my mouth, perhaps forever. Okay? Ross, what party does he belong to? He's a Republican. Okay? A Republican is more likely to vote yes or no on an impeachment of Andrew Johnson.
Yes.
They're more likely to vote yes. Okay, this guy, this Republican, is about to say no, right? He is literally throwing his political career away by voting no, okay? He'll never be elected to office again after this. So softly, Edmund Ross says not guilty. The president is saved. D.R. Anthony writes to Edmund Ross, Kansas repudiates you as she does all perjurers and skunks. Others accuse him of taking bribes. He hasn't. What he has done is to show tremendous courage. Ross did what he believed was right. He didn't let other people bully him. Later generations would call him a hero, but most people in his time don't understand. Ross is never elected to political office again. When Thaddeus Stevens hears the vote, he says, this country is going to the devil. Stevens is wrong. Johnson's mulishness, which means stubbornness, was a disaster for the nation. No question of that. He encouraged racial bigotry. He was a poor leader. He slowed the process of achieving justice for all. But there were two issues involved, and getting them separated was complicated. Impeaching a president is a big step. The Constitution says it is to be done for high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay, that's the exact words in the Constitution, high crimes and misdemeanors. Johnson was not guilty of that. So it was his ideas that were really on trial. Those ideas were awful, but ideas aren't meant to be impeached or tried. The founders meant for voters to vote bad ideas out of office. Most Americans came to believe that the impeachment and trial were mistakes that had threatened the constitutional balance of power. They blamed Stevens and forgot that the Constitution, the 5th, 14th, and 15th Amendments would not have been achieved without it. Okay, there's another page, but I cut it off because you don't really need to know the rest. So, to review that, okay, why was Johnson being impeached? Two hands? Michael?
Because he was violating, a new law that they passed, which means he can't fire anyone who wants without going through Congress.
Good. Okay, they were impeaching him for that. Okay, but I want you to think a little more deeply. Okay, were they really impeaching him for that, or what else? What was the main idea behind his impeachment? Blake.
Like how we think about, like how we think.
How he thinks. Okay. What was he thinking?
People in color should not have like the same rights as.
Okay. People of color should not have the same rights as white people. All right. What else? Hunter.
He was trying to get states to be their own monarchies and stuff like that.
I wouldn't go so far as to say monarchies, but
States
He
have
believed-
their own rights.
right. He believed a lot in states' rights. Okay. Good. All right. That's pretty good detail. Would you say, Mr. Romeo?
It would. I'm curious to know if anyone chimes in about in what condition he was during
That it was one of his charges, and it's actually on the very front page. If you look under that
I
ticket,
saw it.
what's it say?
It says, one of Johnson's crimes, during impeachment was being drunk at the 1865 presidential inauguration.
Yeah.
He was rumored to have taken 4 big swigs, if I remember correctly. I think it was almost up to 4 big swigs before he was then positioned and propped so that he was presentable.
Yeah. I know he was supposed to make a speech, and he kind of like rambled through that.
Yep.
And then Lincoln was like, let's just put him over here somewhere. Let's,
You guys ever see Weekend at Bernie's? Something similar to that. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So that is the impeachment of Andrew Johnson. I've got a couple of videos to show you about it that basically just say the same exact thing. As Michael said, he was impeached for violating the Tenure of Office Act, which I wrote up there. Okay, what was that law? What did it say? Dante.
That you have, that if you're president, you have to go through Congress if you want to hire someone.
Good. Okay, and he did do that. Or he did
Violate it.
He violated it. Thank you. That's a better way of putting it. He did not go through Congress before firing Edwin Stanton, and so they impeached him for it. Let's switch this. Ben, can you light for me, please?
Ooh,
Yeah.
you get the lights off.
Hi.
Yay.
I didn't know what to say, but
I love when the lights are off. Dude, were you sleeping?
That's not the right one.
Oh,
Yeah. Jesus, that's great. Wait, Mr. Patterson,
Wow.
what was the movie for?
What movie?
Or the thing you had over there? With
Oh, you might watch that.
the man who built America.
Oh,
Between
well, I kept saying your name and you didn't answer me. Yeah, figured.
Allow Johnson to fire one of his cabinet members without the Senate reviewing it. Andrew Johnson wanted quite naturally to be able to fire the people who work for him. And Congress said, no, you can't.
Johnson was not going to give up any of his executive authority. Defying the Republican Congress, he fired Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, a Republican and a Lincoln holdover.
Congress immediately sees this as the first step to use military force to take over the War Department so that you can control the Army and you can use it for goodness knows what kind of purpose.
It's not terribly surprising that you would become the first president to be impeached. The level of distrust and hatred was extreme during this presidency.
On February 24th, 1868, Congress, for the first time, impeached a sitting president on 11 counts of high crimes and misdemeanors. Johnson's fate would be decided in the trial by the Senate 3.5 months later.
No one knows for sure how the vote is going to go. It's very narrow. A few senators, there's a feeling that they may go one way or they may go the other. It's not clear. Imagine a day where you've got one of the senators deathly ill being carried in on a chair to vote.
It would take a 2/3 vote in the Senate to convict. At the time, that meant 36 votes, and there were 45 Republicans in the Senate.
The vote was 35 votes to convict, 19 to acquit. Johnson got off by one vote.
They thought that it would probably permanently weaken the presidency, that it would tip the balance too far in the direction of Congress.
But Johnson's victory was a hollow one. He had no power, and he had damaged the office of the president.
Throughout the entire Johnson administration, it's fundamentally a struggle because it's about reconstruction of who has power, the president or Congress. And coming out of this, it's very clear that Congress is the winner of this struggle.
Yeah, so just to recap that, but every president has their own statue. That's probably in his hometown, somewhere in town. Okay, to recap that, Johnson was impeached. Was he convicted?
No.
No, he was not. How many votes did he scrape by on? Was it 36? Yeah, well, I'm asking, how many votes would have convicted? How many more votes would have convicted him? One more vote would have convicted him.
Oh, yeah.
So he was very close to being removed from office, but he was not. All right, I have one more that basically says the same thing.
Did everybody not like him because Lincoln had died? Like, was that the real reason why they didn't like him?
Well, no, not necessarily. It was more of the reason that Johnson was a Democrat and the Congress was mostly radical Republican, and they disagreed with him on how he was running Reconstruction, which was more. Johnson was more concerned about states' rights and getting the South back into the Union, while the Republicans were more concerned about giving blacks equality. Does that make sense? Okay. All right.
Dan Ormond asserting history. As the country goes through the impeachment of a president, it's a good time to look back at the history of impeachment and the trial of President Andrew Johnson.
The Constitution divides the power to remove the president from office into 2 phases. In the first phase, the House must pass a resolution of impeachment with a simple majority. The impeachment is like an indictment in our court system. It doesn't remove the politician from office. In the second phase, the Senate tries that impeachment, with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presiding when a president is impeached. The Senate has the power to remove from office if a 2/3 majority agrees. The Articles of Impeachment of Andrew Johnson for high crimes and misdemeanors was passed on February 24th, 1868. They passed 11 charges against him, which basically accused him of dismissing Edwin Stanton and appointing Thomas without the approval of the Senate. To restrict the president's power over the executive department, Congress passed the Tenure of Office Act. The Constitution allows the president to appoint members of the executive department and gives the Senate the power to confirm them. With this act, Congress said the Senate also had to confirm removals. When Congress was out of session in 1867, Johnson decided Stanton, who was working with the radical Republicans, needed to be replaced. Stanton, however, refused to resign. Johnson sent him another letter clearly removing him from office. When the Senate came back into session in January of 1868, they refused to ratify Johnson's actions. Johnson thought that the Tenure of Office Act was unconstitutional and ignored the Senate and attempted to have a new Secretary of War appointed. He finally got General Lorenzo Thomas, an enemy of Stanton's, to agree to serve as a temporary Secretary of War. Stanton declared that this was illegitimate and barricaded himself in his office. He had Thomas arrested for violating the Tenure of Office Act, but then released him as he realized that it was likely that the courts would declare the act unconstitutional. Instead of prosecuting Thomas, the radicals went after Johnson himself. 3 days after Johnson tried to dismiss Stanton, the House voted to impeach Johnson. This was the first presidential impeachment in United States history. The House appointed what are called managers who served as prosecuting attorneys. They were led by Representatives Thaddeus Stevens and John Bingham. Johnson was defended by a committee of leading lawyers, including Henry Stanbury, who resigned as Attorney General to participate in the trial, and Benjamin Curtis, who had sat on the Supreme Court before the war but had resigned over the Dred Scott case. The trial began in March of 1868 and lasted 11 weeks. It began with very long speeches from Benjamin Butler, one of the prosecutors for the House, arguing that Johnson had broken the law and violated the Constitution. The defense complicated the trial by arguing that the Tenure of Office Act didn't apply to Stanton because he was appointed before the act was passed. The trial ended with a final vote on May 16th. It came to 35 voting for guilty and 19 for innocent. They were only one vote short of securing a conviction. All the Democrats voted with Johnson, and 7 Republicans broke with their party to vote for him. One reason they did this was to stop Benjamin Wade from becoming president. He was president pro tem of the Senate at the time, and he was next in line for the presidency. They preferred Johnson to Wade, although they also believed the president was guilty. Johnson also promised to stop hindering congressional reconstruction and to appoint the more popular General John Schofield in Stanton's place. In hearings held after the trial, evidence also came to light that seemed to show that the acquittal votes were obtained through promises of patronage. The Republicans were really prosecuting Johnson for opposing the Congress's plan for Reconstruction. The Tenure of Office Act was unconstitutional to begin with and was only passed to foil Johnson. Later presidents complained of its restraints, and it was finally repealed in 1887, and a similar law was declared unconstitutional in the Supreme Court case Myers versus United States in 1926.
That's basically it. So I want you to look at that reading on the very end.
He's gonna turn on the lights. No.
The second to last paragraph. It said, impeaching a president is a big step. The Constitution says it is to be done for high crimes and misdemeanors. Johnson was not guilty of that. So it was his ideas that were really on trial. Those ideas were awful, but here's the thing that I want you to remember. Okay? Ideas aren't meant to be impeached or tried. If a president has a bad idea, right, and executes the law that way, can Congress impeach him for that? No. Should Congress impeach him for that? No. Okay? Read the next line there. The founders meant for voters to vote bad ideas out of office, right? Just because somebody comes up with a bad idea and they're the leader, right, doesn't mean that you can just get rid of it, right? The whole idea behind our democracy, our republic, is that if he does have a bad idea, you vote him out of office next time he's up for re-election. That's the whole point. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. That's basically it. You got like a few minutes. You guys all breeze through the
It
lesson.
doesn't at all.
Anything else you want to go over?
No.
There was another case on this, but I didn't turn it down.
What happened to Bob after Lincoln died?
I'm tired.
All right, that's it. You gotta go for that's it.
Oh,
I kind of looked up what happened to Bob after.
Mr. Patterson,
Yeah.
are you running advisory before we go home?
Running advisory?
Yeah, well, no, I think you know what I meant.
I'll be in advisory.
Can we play Kahoot? I want to play Kahoot. Yeah.
Yes. We'll see.
Mr. L's better than you. I want cold. I'm cold. I'm cold. Oh Jesus, why is it so cold?
Because I had to wear it in the rain.
Ah, That's super. Oh, fuck you too, paper. Giving up with life. I'm tired and cold. And then just, no, I'm done. Go away. I'm not ready for Miss Abbott's class. Bet you I'm gonna pass out. Hunter, I'm gonna pass out in Miss Abbott's class.
alive. It says the exact fate and death are unknown.
No, I'm not gonna go to sleep when I get home. Not. Oh, Jesus, I slept too hard. Oh, ow, no, stay. I want to talk. Why are your hands so big? Why are mine so small?
That is a good question.
My hands are just small. I feel like a toddler now. Oh, I might wear your sweatshirt. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pass out in Miss Abbott's class.
That's really sad. I'm almost to your eye level. Like
Oh, shut up! I'm not small. I'm just sitting down.
I'm not small. You're
Just no, yeah, you are just really tall. I'm small. You're just gonna, yeah, no, I have to look up at you. That's not. Ben, come here. Ben, come here. Come here. Why do I have to? I don't want to go over to you. Come here. Go get Ben. I want Ben. Ben, come here.
You want a real listing? Good, bad, good. Alright. Good.
Haha.
Really
Mark, I
bad.
took your hat.
The worst. Really good.
Are you gonna come?
All right.
No.
It was okay. He wasn't good. Bad. He got shot.
Mark.
I didn't say anything. He was great. He was good.
I can't. No, I can't. Why?
He got shot. He was really good. He was okay.
You're gay.
He was all right.
Yeah. No, I'm pansexual. It's nice. I wish they had that rainbow confetti club still.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Depends who you ask. Yeah,
Fun.
not very good. He was really present. Not so good.
Christian,
Really good.
come here. Want a hug?
George Bush, good.
I don't get a hug from you anymore. Mason's dead. He's dead.
Graham is so pretty.
Okay, but there's never
Freaking tall.
I know.
He's over tall. It's illegal. It's
I'm just small, I guess. But yeah, I'm just small. You're mean. Where did you get the tall from? Did you get it from your dad or your mother?
They're actually not that tall.
Then how, are you taller than them?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm taller than.
I'm actually no.
I'm taller than my dead grandma. Well, she's 6 feet under. She's dead. She's dead. Oh
All right,
God.
folks, please sit down. Yeah, okay.
I can do that too. I'm opening the window, even though I'm cold. Oh, Jesus, my back hurts.
Wait. Sit down, sit
Okay,
down.
cold. I'm cold now. You're cold. I opened the window because it was hot. Now I'm cold. Michael? Hi. Stop. Stop. Oh, okay. Oh, I have a jacket. I have a jacket. I can put this on. I'm cold. No, I'm cold. Go sit down. I'm cold.
Who's writing in the chat? Who are these people?
I don't know. I only know one of these people. And they're like one of my favorite people. No. A person. Okay? It's a person. I'm freaking cold. Oh, yay. Miss Abbott, is your room cold? Oh, I'm. I don't want to. I'm too cold to. What? Why am I such a sissy? Huh? Why am I such a sissy? Yeah. Sure. Oh.
All of us are asking the same thing.
I'm cold. We're just gonna go. Mark, guess what? Guess what? Guess. Guess what? Wait. Oh, he didn't get it off. I'm cold. I want to be in the back of the class.
Me too. I wanted my original seat, but Steven took it.
I was talking about the line. Don't slam the locker. Dude, I'm cold. It's just cold, okay? How dare you?